what stage of the game you're in. We tend to serve more people who've been in business a while, but not necessarily. We certify businesses as small from the day they get incorporated. So we do work with small businesses that have just been formed, but we present topics of importance or interest to people like you. And this is one of the webinars we're doing today. We used to do them all in person, and I would travel out to the regions and have a central point where I would have people come and listen. But since COVID hit, we've been doing everything virtually. So with the workshops we do, we also put on conferences where you can network with state buyers and you can present yourself and your business and what goods and services you sell. But I think the real benefit comes when you can have a one-on-one meeting with any of us to talk about your marketing strategies, where you think you might plug into the state or local government areas. Those are really the areas we cover. And Susan Ball, who I'm going to introduce now, is the director of Small Business Development Center at the University of Mary Washington. And all the SBDCs around the country, they're all around the country, they serve every area possible. But they were formed under the Small Business Administration. So I think initially, and I might be wrong, Susan, correct me if I am, but they're more oriented, or were more oriented, let's say, to the federal government contracting. And now, I mean, they've always done a great job of helping people from having a concept of starting a business to actually making it come to fruition, and then helping them with contracting. And Susan's one of my best right-hand women as far as helping me get people certified and to do business with the state. And then once she has helped them get certified, I try to come in and help them really focus in on where they can market. So Susan's going to be with us this morning. And then after Susan, she's going to introduce someone who works in her office, Kelsey Whitman, who has done a wonderful job of starting a program at Mary Washington called UMW Startup. And she will talk more about that, but she has got a wonderful student who is also a business owner who's going to speak to you as well. So I'll turn it over to Susan Ball, and periodically I'm going to put some information in the chat for you to go to our website if you want certain information. So just keep an eye out for that. We're really glad to have all of you this morning. And Susan, I'll hand it to you. You're muted, Susan. You're muted.
Thank you. Yeah, I forgot about that. So we're happy to be with you today. I am the director of the University of Mary Washington Small Business Development Center. That covers not only Planning District 16, but 17 and 18, which is the Northern Neck and Middle Peninsula. We are just up the hill from James Monroe High School in the Eagle Village Shopping Center. We are mostly doing Zoom meetings now, but we can do some in person, limited to the few days of the week that we come in now. Under the grant from the Small Business Administration, we help all small business owners or those who are thinking about small business ownership, and it's a free consulting service. We do have training classes that we sometimes offer for free and sometimes charge a small fee. $30 is the most that we charge for anything now. Because we are funded in part by the SBA, we have to follow their regulations, which means if you want service, you have to fill out a request for consulting. They document everything, number of clients we meet with, number of hours spent consulting, new business starts, jobs created, money invested, because they have to prove to the Congress every year that this program is worth funding. If you email me and say, hey, I want to meet with you to start a business, I'm going to say, you need to complete a request for consulting. The easiest way to do that is to go to the Virginia SBDC site. And Courtney, will you put that in the chat? It's Virginia spelled out, sbdc.org. And then under consulting, just request as a new or existing business owner, but a new client to have consulting. And then we'll get that and we will contact you and set up a time to meet. Some of the things we help with is actually setting up an LLC or corporation, filling out that paperwork, applying for a tax ID number, registering to collect sales tax if that applies to you. We can help with business planning. Cash flow forecasting is something we do a lot of. We want to help you project how money is going to come in and out of your business to see if you're going to be profitable and if you're going to make enough money for it to be worthwhile to you. We also have a research network and we can request research for you. We have access to IBIS World Industry Reports as well. We can help you with writing your business plan and then government contracting, both on a state and federal level. We usually help you with the registrations and certifications, and then we turn you over to Courtney or her counterpart on the federal side, Tricia Taylor, who help you learn how to market and really do business with the government. But we're good at the registration parts. Kelsey joined us about 7 or 8 years ago now. She's been there a while. Even though my main name is Susan Whitman and she's Kelsey Whitman, we are not related. But 2 of our 4 staff people are Whitmans by birth. But Kelsey runs our incubation center and then also our startup UW. She puts on our pitch competition and lots of great things. And so I'm going to turn it over to Kelsey. And I'm going to be quiet.
Okay, hi. I'm Kelsey. Thank you for the introduction, Susan. I'm going to attempt to share my screen. I'm really excited to talk to high schoolers today. It's been a while since I've talked to high schoolers, but my mom's a high school teacher, so I feel like I'm being my mom a little bit right now. So share a window. That window is not there. And if you all have questions, then please write them in the chat and I will get to them as soon as I can. Does this look good to you all?
Looks good.
Did I just exit out of it?
Yes, you did.
Okay. Okay. So let's see. I think I'm gonna figure that out, but I'm actually gonna queue up Paige while I do that so that Paige can take it away while I figure out my situation with this screen. So Paige is one of my current students, and she also owns a company. So
Kelsey, excuse me. I am so sorry. I totally forgot to record this, and I do want to record it.
It's recording.
Yeah. Oh, it is?
It's recording. Yeah.
Well, wonderful. Did you do that? Because I didn't.
Katina did.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Katina. I'm so sorry. I totally forgot. Excuse me. That's it.
Okay. Okay, awesome. So Paige, I'll let Paige tell you guys about her company, but she actually won 3rd place in our pitch competition this spring. She is a very business savvy person, also has an incredible work ethic. She found a way to turn her passion into a legitimate company. And from what I know, and Paige, you can correct me, but she's pretty much completely self-taught, everything from marketing to setting up her e-commerce platform, creating the products, designing them, and everything else. So Paige, take it away, please.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me. So that is correct. I have no business experience starting out. I come from a family of teachers and one engineer. So I started this from nothing. I actually DoorDashed. That's how I started. I DoorDashed to get my startup costs and created a business. So my business is called Impressed by Paige. I'll be happy to put that stuff in the chat if you want to check out my Instagram, Etsy, all the above. I started out creating press-on nails and I hand paint them all myself. I have an example here because it's hard to visualize. So these are press-on nails. They're all hand painted by me and designed by me. So I started out doing that in July of 2020. And from there, I started just selling straight through Instagram and eventually moved forward to working on Etsy and expanded the business in January of 2021 to making nail stickers because I saw that there were not a lot of options. So I just invested in a Cricut, a machine. Usually those are made with used for t-shirts and other larger stickers, but I found a way to make really tiny ones like these little gingerbread men. So this is one of my Christmas ones. So that is how I've started and moving forward and expanding into in-person appointments. And my overall goal is to be able to run a salon one day. But again, I am fully self-taught. I figured all this out on my own with a lot of help from Kelsey in the end, and Susan was a huge help in getting me incorporated to be a limited liability company and get all my taxes sorted out. So very grateful for all their help, and I'm still learning, but happy to answer any questions you have about anything.
All right, thanks for being here, Paige. So Paige actually sells, I guess they're not doing it anymore, but downtown.
Actually, I will be selling downtown again.
Oh, good.
For the Christmas market, I forgot to mention. Yeah, I do sell in person as well. I sell downtown next to the farmers market. It's called Art in the Park. That season ended in October, but we will be having Mistletoe Market December 4th from 9 to 1 p.m. at Her Camp Park, if you're familiar with it. If you end up seeing my Instagram or anything, I will be advertising that a lot. So you will have a lot of information about it.
Yeah, and where can they follow you on Instagram?
I will put it in the chat. It is Impressed by Paige.
All right. So is everyone seeing my screen that says entrepreneurship?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Paige. Thank you, Susan. So here's my little screen. This is Paige with her whole setup. And I believe, yeah, this is at the market downtown, right, Paige?
Correct.
I think there was one question. Someone wanted to know how old you are.
I am 21. I'm a senior here at Mary Washington.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to talk about entrepreneurship now. So Paige is a student in my current group of Startup UMW students. This program is open to all UMW and Germanna students. And just a little bit about Startup UMW. If any of you guys are considering going to Mary Washington one day, really what the program Startup UMW is all about is outside of the classroom learning. So I literally bring the students off campus. They have to cross, over Route 1 where the big Mary Washington Bridge is, and I introduce them to local business owners. I have a lawyer that comes in, an accountant, and other professionals from the community, and they learn how to start a company, not from professors or teachers, but actually from people who own a business. And I like when I'm sharing my screen, I can't see you guys or the chat. So if someone can speak up and say something, hold on. Is there a different window I can do? I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with Google Meet. So Katina or Ben, if one of you guys can just jump in because I can't see the screen. If I need to answer a question or anything like that, that would be awesome. So it's not only a great networking opportunity for students to actually meet people in Fredericksburg, especially because, a lot of college students aren't from Fredericksburg, but it also gives them a real world perspective. Students can learn tangible information like, how do I design a logo? What should I name my business? How can I create a website? Starting a business page on social media. So they actually learn how to build their company in Startup BMW. It's a semester-long program, and at the end, you pitch your business idea in a 5-minute pitch. So Paige is going to pitch her business idea next week because the semester flew by and we're already having pitch day next week. So entrepreneurship, what am I going to talk to you guys about today? I'm going to talk about what it means to be entrepreneurial, talk a little bit about how entrepreneurs think, and then also I'm going to get into the lean startup. So I'm curious to hear from you guys. I'll have to ask you at some point if you have talked about any of this stuff in your entrepreneurship class at James Monroe, those of you who are in that class. So entrepreneurship. The definition, according to Oxford, of an entrepreneur is a person who organizes and operates a business or businesses taking on greater than normal financial risk to do so. So pretty obvious. And while this definition is correct, I would like to talk about entrepreneurship more broadly, not just as someone who owns a business, but as a mindset. As humans, we're born with an ability to adapt to our environment. And anytime that you adapt and do something new, this is called innovation or innovative thinking. So if you ever had a relationship with a family member or a friend or a teacher, and you had to change, how you would talk to that person, you had to change how you studied, you had to change your schedule, something in order to get a better grade, in order to improve your relationship with your friend. And if this involved a change in your behavior or thinking, then you already know what it's like to have an entrepreneur, to think like an entrepreneur or to be innovative. So my definition, something that I'll talk about, is that entrepreneurship is a mindset, not just people who start a business. And I think this is especially cool for you guys, those of you who are in high school, because there are ways that you could be entrepreneurial right now that don't involve actually starting a business, creating a product and selling it, or starting, a design business or something like that. So there's a lot. Oh, here we go. To me, being an entrepreneurial is simply thinking creatively, seeing an end game, and adjusting your choices to get there. There's a lot of research out there about what makes entrepreneurs successful and what makes people entrepreneurial. And I'm going to summarize these findings in these 4 areas. 1 is attitude, 2 is creativity, relationships, and organization. Let's talk about attitude. So a positive attitude, being confident in your idea and believing in yourself and persevering and making things happen with determination. These are all traits that I've seen. I've worked with over 125 students at this point, and also in my incubation program, I've worked with about 40 companies in the Fredericksburg area. And something that I always notice in the companies that are really successful is definitely a positive attitude. And, it's really easy, especially if you own a business, to get a lot of no's and be discouraged and complain about, well, your customers don't understand this, or, you're so frustrated by your employee, it's always somebody else's fault. But those who are always challenging themselves to see things as an opportunity to grow and to have a positive attitude are always more successful. And confidence, I guess, definitely goes without saying. You have to be confident in your idea. You have to feel good about your product and know that it's amazing, and keep working on your product if it's not at that place yet until you're really confident about it. And then, of course, perseverance, making things happen with determination. I saw this quote a little while ago that I really liked. You have to believe it before you see it. And Paige or anyone else who's started a company, or maybe you're in like a student club and you're planning an event or something like that, you have to believe it before you see it. So I just wanted to share that little quote with you. Creativity, solving a problem, using a little imagination, think a bit differently with a fresh set of eyes. So let me give an example of a student and creativity. I had a student who, she was Peruvian, and she wanted to start a food business. And the problem, so actually, I'm not going to talk about that business. Okay, let me move on to relationships. So, success in business is good relationships with customers, employees, and partners. And obviously, those of you, if you're not in business right now, good relationship starts with your teachers. It starts with your friends. It starts with, people on your sports teams and things like that. So a way that you can start thinking like an entrepreneur and thinking about relationships entrepreneurial are to be a good listener. Business owners successful business owners know that it's not about their idea that they're in love with. It's about what their customer wants, what their customer is actually going to spend money on. So always listening to your customers, listening to what's going on in the market, being curious. Everybody knows something that you don't. Always ask questions. So those are little qualities in relationships and how you can start building stronger relationships right now and learn from people. Always be curious from everybody that you meet. And lastly, organization. So being an entrepreneur requires a great deal of organizational skills. I put those hats there because obviously you have to wear many hats, like Paige running her nail company. She does the marketing. She actually builds the product. She has to communicate with all of her customers, and she's had, she's had thousands of sales by now, online, in person, and things like that. She has to keep track of all of these sales, and you have to have excellent organization skills to be an entrepreneur. This is something that I love to tell my students. So there's a question of, are entrepreneurs born or made? So are you born with like special gifts that make you an entrepreneur, or can anybody become an entrepreneur? They did a survey among many business owners, and a vast majority, actually I think all of them, said that people who started a company said that being an entrepreneur is made and not born. So we can get rid of the idea that entrepreneurs are other, like, special people that possess, greater intelligence or skills that you don't have. Everybody, like I said earlier, everybody can have entrepreneurial skills. Everybody can develop them. And it's really a mindset that you can adopt right now, to just challenge yourself to think innovatively, creatively, and differently. Okay, I also found this quote that I wanted to share with you guys just yesterday. Being smart is nothing more than being exposed to something and then repeat until it's common practice. If you're learning something new and starting a company and you're trying to develop a skill to be braver, it's really just doing it once, learning about it, and then repeating until common practice. So all of us have the capability and the wherewithal to become entrepreneurs one day. Think entrepreneurially, not just open a business, but, you know, to think about what your goals are in high school. And maybe you want to get into college. Well, what college do you want to get in? And then what are your goals for going to college if that's what you choose? You know, what type of job do you want? What would look good on your resume if you were applying to that job? So what can you do right now? Oh, maybe I need some extracurriculars. Maybe I need better grades. So I should go to my teachers and ask for extra help if I'm struggling in a class. Okay. So the last thing I'll leave you with in my first talk about entrepreneurship is this table I found several years ago, and I still refer back to it. It's the traditional mindset versus the entrepreneurial mindset. So I'll just read from the line across. The traditional mindset, I'll wait for the perfect opportunity, versus I can start taking some action now. How much money can I make from this opportunity, versus what's the most I could lose by pursuing this opportunity? I'll be a failure if I don't accomplish my original goals, versus I can succeed by being open to new goals as I go along. And I will create success using my own resources, versus I can succeed by asking for help from other people and organizations. So I love this table. And I will just end before maybe someone has a question or wanted to share something that they were interested in this chat about entrepreneurship. But a traditional mindset to me is one where, you know, you follow instructions, you go through all the steps to, you know, go to high school, go to college, get your grades, check all the boxes. And you just hope that one day you'll get a job and things will work out. An entrepreneur recognizes that they can do something right now actively to open up more opportunities for themselves. It can be as simple as asking to meet your teacher after class to get help with something that you don't understand, or signing up for a club, or challenging yourself to just learn something new. And always ask for help, always ask questions, always, you know, be curious, and have an attitude that you can learn something from everybody. Okay, now I have the lean startup, but kind of want to look at Google chat, make sure I'm like still connected with you guys. Okay, I see you. So that's what it looks like. Okay. Any questions for me? Did I miss anything in the chat while I was talking? Oh, I see some people answered. Both made. Similar to fixed and open mindsets. Oh, that's great. Yeah, I didn't learn about that before, actually. Okay, cool.
Kelsey, since we've lost one of the speakers, we've got some extra time. Let's just field some of the questions. I mean, and I prefer, rather than chat, I know we've got a lot of people on here, but if we could just unmute and ask your questions. And if Kelsey can't answer them, then Susan, are you still there? She might have left.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay. If you are, if Kelsey can't answer, then you and I can try to field some of them, or at least refer them. But do any of you have questions? I know I asked, when I asked you all to register, I asked you what one question would you like answered? And some of the questions were from a variety of standpoints, where people were in their business cycle as far as starting a business or thinking about starting a business, up to people who are looking for funds already. So if you just would open up your mics, and let's just do it informally if we can.
So Noria had a question for Paige, but I don't know if Paige is still here. She might have had to go to class.
I'm here. I like your presentation.
I do too.
Noria, do you want to ask Paige your question?
She's turning on her mic. Hold on.
Okay. Here we go. She typed it.
Yeah, it's easier for everybody to see. Yeah.
I'll speak for Noria because she sent it in the text. She wants to know how Paige marketed her nails and other her other things that she does, like the sticky. Oh, how you have you have competition out there, Paige. So what was your unique perspective or your uniqueness that on Etsy now are looking for your products?
So something actually, I believe Kelsey was the one who taught me is why are you better? So there's not really competition. It's just how can you be better than them? But when I started out, I researched how to make them at first, but then I started looking up other successful businesses and why they were successful in the same press-on nail business. And I saw where there could be improvements. So specifically, the biggest improvement that needed to be made was everybody was only selling 10 nails. So everybody had to size their own nails at home. And I even did this for myself practicing, and it's very difficult to find the sizes that fit best for you. So I changed it up and I just offered a perfect fit guarantee by giving 20 nails instead of 10 because the cost wasn't that different when I was looking into it. So it's a lot more comfort for people to actually purchase the nails when they saw a perfect fit guarantee with all the supplies included. And at my markets, that has been the selling point for me to actually get sales in person and online. And for the stickers, there's going to be a lot of stickers out there, but I looked them up and surprisingly, there's not a lot of options in general, specifically Etsy. And a lot of people are not using vinyl either. I use vinyl and it makes it a lot easier for the process. So I'm actually pretty new in that area. So a lot of people are not able to find things like mine. A lot of people aren't making anything like mine right now. So I'm a little unique in that area so far.
Thank you.
Jack Carmody has a question. He raised his hand. So Jack, fire away.
What role does social media influence small businesses?
So what I always tell my companies, and a lot of companies, kind of hate social media because it's just so time consuming. But I think the last I checked, and this was 3 years ago, so it's probably higher now, but about 65% of people before they buy from a company will look them up on social media. So it's important to have somewhat of a presence, but it also matters, what industry you're in. Like if you want to do consulting, then you probably don't need to be on Instagram, but maybe LinkedIn is good. So you really have to have goals from a higher level when you think about marketing. Like, am I trying to get more customers? And if so, what can I strategically use social media for, and which platforms should I use to reach those customers? And social media is really good for just that higher level brand awareness. There's a quote, people never buy from a company that they haven't heard of before. So social media is a really good place to just do that high level marketing, not be like, hey, I have a sale 50% off only on Tuesday, but to, talk about we'll just keep using Paige, if you're in the nail business, like actually showing the person behind the company. So Paige has a lot of content with her in it, and people really like that. Learning about, creative trends in nails and using that space to be social, keep it social on the social network, they say. So it's important to have a presence, if that answers your question, but it's also important to think strategically about it, because I meet with businesses all the time who are like, okay, so I did my Instagram page, I did my Facebook page, I did my website, I did my that. And I'm like, okay, well, are your customers on Instagram? You know, if your target customer is maybe 50 to 50 years old or something like that, they're probably on Facebook. So make sure you're on the right place. Make sure you're putting out content that is interesting, that people can feel like they can connect with your brand on like more of an emotional level. Somebody wrote email. Absolutely. Email is really strong. Email is a way to actually give someone like a clickable button, like buy now, and to move people along when they're just learning about your company on social media, to actually be like, oh, maybe I want to purchase this. And so hopefully that answers your question. Okay. Is anyone else?
Nuria, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to say I'm excited that you're going to show them the Lean Startup, because these students are like, they've already done a business plan. And so we were going to focus on doing a Lean Startup plan. We did one last year, a business plan. It was just kind of sort of half done. It was hard because we were mostly virtual. So this year we're going to work on a Lean Startup. So.
That's awesome.
Oh,
Well,
Kelsey,
Yeah.
are you going to comment on that? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No.
I was going to say, Nuria Durrani had another question. What's the other big source of marketing after social media and in person? Did you think email is the one?
Oh, was that the answer to that question? Got it. One thing that I'll throw out that sometimes people don't think about is like niche publications and like niche. So I'm trying to think of an example, but if you are selling like cleaning products, then you could look at the cleaning product market, and maybe there's like a professional association and they have a magazine and like 2,000 people get this magazine. Then getting marketing in that particular place, or maybe Paige with nails, if she found like an Instagram hashtag that was like hashtag nail lovers or something like that, and she looked at that community and found that all of them follow some account, like thinking strategically about who your market is, what platforms they use, if they can, if they are always on some Snapchat channel, maybe like creating a Snapchat ad to hit them in that, and contacting that direct Snapchat channel to get the ad placed in there. But really creative ways that instead of like having a TV commercial, obviously none of you guys probably have the budget to do a TV commercial, but like if you want to start a landscaping company, then where do other landscaping companies advertise? What type of stuff are people searching? When they type into Google, they type in like lawn service near me, and so that gets into how you can place on your website so you rank higher in the Google search, to match what people are searching for in a particular geographical area. And so yeah, thinking really creatively about like, oh, if people like soap, maybe they'll go to Sugar and Spruce downtown, and maybe I should put my information in this particular store, something like that. Niche, that's called niche marketing. All right.
Any other questions? Oh, come on. I know. Well, let's go down some of that list then and just tick them off. Susan, I haven't got that list in front of me. Can you look at the list and see what ones would be of interest to most people starting a business?
And before we continue, Ms. Kelsey, we're going to keep answering questions. Can you stop presenting for the sake of the recording until you go back to presenting? Thank you.
Yes.
Funding, there was a question about funding available for startups. That's always an interesting question, because it's hard to get money for startups. It is much easier to get money once you've been in business for 2 years. But there is sometimes money. We have lenders in our community who will fund startups. And so if you are looking for a significant amount of money, I would say greater than $30,000, a banker might be interested in lending to you. They are going to base that on your business plan. So you need a written business plan that explains your idea, how you're going to attract customers, and communicate to people that you are in business and that you're there. And then you're going to need to forecast cash flows. And Kelsey's hit on that some. Figuring out how much money you're going to bring in is a real challenge. What is an average customer going to spend, and how many customers are you going to have? And we can help you with some ballpark ideas. It is really ballpark in the beginning. Figuring out your expenses is much easier, but typically a bank's going to want a cash flow forecast for 2 years by month, and then a written business plan. But they're also going to look at your personal credit. So starting to work on your credit now as young people is really, really important. When I was a high school senior, my mother decided that what I needed for high school graduation was a sewing machine. Didn't ask for a sewing machine, but she felt like I needed that. And I did know how to sew a little bit. And then she took me to the Singer Sewing store, or whatever it is. It's still in Eagle Village, and said, you need to have a stand to put your sewing machine in. So we applied for credit with her co-signing for a $125 stand for my sewing machine. And then when the bill came, I paid it because she wasn't buying the stand, but she was making me buy a stand. And then I got a Singer credit card, and I had established credit as an 18-year-old. So those kinds of things are important. When my sons were learning to drive, we wanted them to have a credit card in case they pulled into a gas station and they had no cash. People still used cash 15 years ago, but my sons would wind up with $1 or $2. So we co-signed for a credit card for them, where I could keep a really good eye on their spending and make sure that they paid it. If they didn't pay their bill and it was getting to be due, then I would pay it and then just get the money back from them, so that I helped them to have really good credit as well. I've got another client who has his sons as authorized users of his credit card, but he doesn't give them a credit card and let them use it. But they're building credit on his good credit. So work with your parents and establish a plan now while you're young to have good credit. It will help you in college. It will help you when you want a credit card or buy your first car. But if you want to start a business, you need to have pretty good credit. You also need to have some money of your own to invest. And usually that's about 20 or 25% of your startup costs. And then a lender, may loan you the rest of it if you have a good plan. Any questions on that? But basically, most of your money is going to come from yourself. I think, Paige started hers with her own money. You might be able to borrow from family and friends. Or if you have a good plan and good credit, you might be able to borrow from the bank.
Do you all ever tell people to go to the Small Business Administration website, or is that in conflict with what you're promoting at UMW?
No, we actually are a resource partner of the SBA. So we do. We have not had great luck with their lender match. They're not really, we just haven't had clients who've had a lot of success with that. If you have no other options, there are some micro lenders who charge a fairly high rate of interest. We do have some micro lenders that we work with in the state. Most of our startup loans are SBA guaranteed loans because it reduces the risk to the bank. And most of our loans for building purchases are also SBA guaranteed because the SBA has a great loan program for buying buildings. So we work very closely with them. But we also know the banks in our region who would consider doing a startup, and we know the banks that won't. And unfortunately, some of them will sign you up for all kinds of services like a bank account and merchant services to accept credit card payments, and then say, well, sorry, we can't make you a loan because it doesn't fit into our portfolio, which is code for we don't do startup loans, but they don't tell you that. So working with us can be good. But, look at the SBA Lender Match. You might find a good match on there as well.
Well, also, Susan, we have a small, a division in my agency is called the Virginia Small Business Financing Authority. And they're kind of like, huh?
But I think you have to be open for 2 years.
Well, they have a startup loan that you can apply for $15,000. And if you're working with the SBDC, like you're a client of Susan's, then it can go up to $25,000. But Susan was very correct in saying you must have good credit. They're not, if you haven't established some sort of credit and shown that you repay whatever you're borrowing, no matter what the amount is, they do probably look at your track record. But we have startup loans for $15,000. So,
and I just saw a question, does it depend on what you're doing? Not really, as long as you can show there's a market and that you know who your customers are. The SBA cannot loan for anything that's illegal or investment type things. So if you wanted to buy a rental home and rent it to a renter, that's an investment. They can't loan for that. They cannot loan for marijuana type businesses at this time either. But if you're doing like hemp oil, that is legal and they can do that. So even though marijuana might be legal in the state, federally it's not legal, and they go by the federal laws. Are the startup loans of $15,000 what you're referring to through the SBDC? There's just questions.
No, those loans go through what's called the VSBFA. That stands for Virginia Small Business Financing Authority. And while they advertise, much like the SBA does, that they support all these new businesses, you get in and you realize there's some hoops you have to jump through. But one is that you must have good credit, and you must have a good idea, a good concept, and a business plan. And then, as I say, if you've affiliated with an SBDC and they're willing to sign off that you have been, in fact, a regular client, then they may endorse it up to $25,000. But I'm not a loan officer. We have several loan officers, and I can refer you to that. I put a link to our directory in the chat. And if you scroll to my section, which is the Business Development and Outreach Services section, that gives you all the different business services managers in my division. But if you scroll to the Virginia Small Business Financing Authority, you can pick any one of those regional lending managers and talk to them. You can call them and ask them if that's would be available to you.
Okay, thanks so much.
Sure. Susan, are there any other glaring questions on that list that you think would be helpful right now?
I think I saw one about grants. But grants is a question we get all the time. I thought I saw that. There are not really federal grants for people starting businesses to make money. But there are sometimes private grants. Yeah, grants available. But that's a question we get asked almost daily. And the government doesn't make grants for people to start profit-making businesses. And we tell people, think of grants as contracts. So we get a grant from the SBA to do work. And when people bid on a job with the government and they get that award, that's often called a grant. But there are some private companies that make grants to small businesses, such as Hello Alice and Red Backpack. Red Backpack, you do have to be a female starting a business because they're the Spanx underwear people for females, and they want to promote female entrepreneurship. Locally, there are sometimes grants as well. Particularly the city of Fredericksburg has some grants, Invest Fredericksburg, that they might you might be available to you. But don't really be expecting free money. There's a lot of media that says that there's all this money out there for free, but there's really not.
That is so true, Susan. I was a business owner, and I saw a wonderful article in the paper about how the SBA supported women-owned companies. And I went to a bank that was working with the SBA, and they wanted to charge me 18% interest on the loan. This was a long time ago. And I had to put a CD account with them, and they were only going to pay me 12% on the CD. I said, how is this helpful to me? But yeah, no, there's a lot of media that would have you think there's just money floating around for startups. It's not true.
All right, then somebody else asked, what guidance do you have for somebody with a business concept seeking startup funds? Another idea is crowdfunding. And if you have a great idea and you can make a great short video, you might get crowdfunding money to start your business, particularly if you can show you've invested your own money to get to where you are so far. So we have a store in Fredericksburg, Kickshaws. They were downtown. Now they've recently moved to Central Park. They did crowdfunding to get money to get started, and they appealed to people with gluten sensitivities or allergies and said there's just not a lot of gluten-free food available in Fredericksburg, and we want to have a gluten-free market where you can buy packaged things but also freshly baked products in our store. And people gave them money to get started, and then they put out an appeal to those same people and said, we could use some sweat equity. Why don't you come down and help us paint and put up shelving in our store? And they got tremendous groups of people to come get their store ready to open. When they moved to Central Park, then they got a grant from the city of Fredericksburg, or maybe a microloan, to help with that transition into a new and bigger space. So if people like what you're doing, and particularly if you can really create interest, that can be very useful. There's a product called Goldie Blocks, and it's to teach science and STEM education to girls and get them really interested in it. And the person who started that invested money of her own and from her family to make her first little kits, and then made this great video. She was asking for like $25,000. She got $250,000 in a Kickstarter campaign to really grow her business. Other questions? There's a question about, can foreigners start a business in the U.S.? Absolutely. You do have to have a social security number, or maybe an equivalent that might not be called a social security number. Many of our clients are not citizens when they start. There might be limitations on things, but I haven't really encountered that with anybody. Where you have a problem is if you're on like a student visa and you don't get some kind of ID, but you have to have something to use to apply for, to open a bank account and apply for a tax ID number. So there's a question about how long have you been in business and things like that. I am not currently in business, but I consider myself the cool business owner because I had a pizza restaurant, and what's cooler than owning a pizza restaurant? It was a franchise. So I have been through the process of signing a franchise agreement, which was for 10 years, and they were going to take a % of my revenues, not profits. Signing a 10-year lease, trying to get financing, borrowing it from family eventually, but through a formal loan agreement. Kelsey's father is an entrepreneur in construction, correct? Our boss, Brian, owned a manufacturing company and now owns a travel sports team. And our colleague Angie has owned a landscaping business for about 20 years. She makes her husband do all the work and she sits in the office and does consulting with us. So we all have a background in entrepreneurship and personal business experience that we can share with you. And the joys and the rewards, as well as the challenges and frustrations of business ownership.
I saw a note that they have to leave for lunch at 11:20, so I can try to zip through Lean Startup.
Oh, I didn't realize you needed to do that.
Yeah, I have more. I have half more
Sorry,
content.
Chelsea. I was just.
Oh no!
I had no idea. Okay.
But I'm going
glad
to go ahead and jump off because I'm getting.
Okay.
Thank
Susan,
you.
thank you. Now listen, should I put your contact information in the chat?
Sure. You can
Okay.
do SBDC at umw.edu or SBAL2 at umw.edu.
Okay. Okay. Good. Thanks. Have a good lunch.
Okay, guys. The Lean Startup. I guess maybe you've heard about it. But what is the Lean Startup? So this was a book published in 2011. Companies were already doing this and people were already doing it. But one person, I guess Eric Ries, basically observed it and gave it a name and published a book on it and got really famous. And now like 90% of people that are in business have heard of the Lean Startup, at least heard of it. So what is it? It's essentially an alternative to the business plan. So traditionally, and this book was published in 2011, I guess in the last century or so, people would come up with their business idea, do all of this exhaustive research and write a comprehensive plan, and then, buy their sign, hang it up on their store, whatever it is, and cross their fingers and say, okay, I've launched, and hope that customers buy from them. So this is sort of like the build first, buy customers later model. And the Lean Startup is a completely alternative approach. I teach it on day 2 of Startup UMW. And it's essentially, well, actually, let me just tell you what it is. It's a 3-step process. If you see number 1, idea, 2, product, and 3, data. So first you come up with an idea. You do have to do some research, and the idea is that as quickly as possible, you take your idea and you get it into some sort of product. The book calls it an MVP, a minimally viable product. It's also called a prototype or a beta. This means like a rough draft, some early version of your product. What's a good example of this? I mean, I had a student who had a food business and she just started making her food right away and giving it to friends and family. I had a student who wanted to do like a wedding coordinator company. And since this is like a service and not a physical product, like lipstick or lotion or something like that, she actually drew like a flow chart of like what it would look like, meet client, and this is my package. And she shared it with her friends that were getting married. So you go from the idea to some sort of representation of your product or service, and you get it out there. You ask people that you know and their friends, and you collect data on it. And you can do this like literally just by asking them questions like, well, what do you think? What would you like about it? If I changed it, what didn't you like? And things like that. And then you learn, and it's this never ending loop where you incorporate that back into your product, and you improve your beta, your prototype, you change things, and then you're constantly learning and constantly changing. So Paige is actually definitely a student that incorporated the Lean Startup principles. I mean, she like just started by doing her own nails and then her friends' nails and got feedback on what they liked and what they didn't like, and changed her product, eventually discovered that the sizing thing that she talked about was an issue, so that she incorporated that into her product. And then she noticed what designs were more popular and which weren't popular, so she incorporated that back into her product. And yes, that is it. And so the Lean Startup is very customer centric. You learn with your customer what they like, what they don't like, and this validates your business along the way. So like I explained earlier, if you are so excited about your idea and you think that it's going to be so successful and people are going to love it, then you're stuck in your own mind just thinking about, oh, I have the best idea, of course people are going to love it. But a good entrepreneur will understand that it's not about them thinking that their idea is so cool. They actually have to have proof that there are people out there that also like it, that will buy it. And so at a very early stage, like even if you're just talking about this idea with your parents or your friends, you learn from them because you're building a business that's for your customer. So that's what I mean by customer centric. You're like just obsessed with the customer. It's not about you and what you think is so cool. Like obviously Paige is passionate about nails and she loves nails, but the stuff that she does, it's for her customers. You know, it's her customers have to like it. So the idea behind this is that if you're getting all of this feedback in the early stages of your development, before you've written some like 15-page business plan, then by the time you're actually like doors open or your site is launched and you're taking orders, first of all, you already have some customers or some potential customers because they've bought from you before or they've tested out your product and told you that they like it and stuff like that. But you know for sure that you're going to have a customer base because you built your company with your customers. In a way, I hope that makes sense. So learn with your customers. Fail fast and pivot. So this is something I talked about earlier with creativity and the traditional mindset and entrepreneurial mindset. So failing fast and pivoting are terms from the book, The Lean Startup. It basically means like if you come up with your lipstick. I have a lot of students that do like skincare and cosmetic products. And if they build a lipstick and get someone to use it and they're like, I would never use this, it doesn't work. Instead of being like, well, my business was a failure, they're just like, okay, I'm going to change it. She did not like the color, the material didn't work. And so pivoting is, you know, well, imagine if she had built a full-on comprehensive business plan and then had to throw it away. But in the Lean Startup method, she can just use a different lipstick instead. So you save time and money, especially if people are trying to get a loan for, you know, lots of money before they launch. This is a way more cost-effective way to start a business. You're constantly testing your vision. And again, this is kind of similar to the entrepreneurial mindset, which is being curious, which is being open to learn, which is thinking creatively. It's not like obsessing over your business idea, but putting it out there to get other people's feedback on it and listen to them. By the time the product is created, it will already have established customers, validated learning. You're constantly running experiments to test your vision, and a heavy focus on measuring progress and collecting data. So anytime people are, you know, you're asking for feedback, you're making notes, you're writing it down. Like maybe you want to do a survey. I've had students do surveys of college students if they want to sell to college students, and figuring out what they like, what they don't like, and stuff like that. And this is a picture of me and two of my students. So this one student on the left, Clean Cut Lawn Care, is his company. He started off just like mowing his neighbors' lawns, and now he gets like huge contracts to do like commercial spaces and stuff like that. So you know, it was a good business idea and started BMW. And after he graduated, he turned it into like a really big company. So I like his story. I also put this quote in here from the co-founder of LinkedIn. If you are not embarrassed by the first version of your product, you've launched too late. So this sort of goes to the idea of not being obsessed with having a perfect product and it being pretty and all of that stuff, but just getting something out there. I've had students that build what their website is going to look like in PowerPoint and getting that out there. And I mean, when I showed this quote to Paige, she was like, that is the truth, because she looks back at her like Instagram posts from years ago and is like, oh my God, like that was like so terrible. I can't believe I did that. But that's part of the lean startup mindset. It's part of the entrepreneurial mindset, is not being embarrassed and obsessed with perfection, but being obsessed with your customer and what you can learn from them, and getting something out there as soon as you can so that you can learn and be a more successful entrepreneur. Do I have anything else? That is all I have. I put this picture of I guess this was pre-COVID, like 4 semesters ago on pitch day. I guess I will stop sharing. What time is it? 11:14, 5 minutes to spare. Do I have a pitch day every semester? Yes, every semester we have a pitch day, and then every spring semester we actually have a competition that I fundraise for, and we have a bunch of sponsors, so the students actually win money for their business ideas. 3 of them win money.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, there are no more questions. Well, I cannot thank you enough, Kelsey and Susan. I'll talk to her later, but I put Susan's information in the chat. Would you like to put yours, Kelsey, as far as your
Sure.
contact
So if any of
information?
you guys end up at Mary Washington, better look me up.
Or Germana.
Or Germana, look me up.
Yeah. So we're planning to have another webinar in January on the 19th right now. So I hope that Ben and Katina, I'm sorry, I did not introduce you. Can I do that now? Are you still there? If you will, just put your cameras back on. I'd like for people to see. Ben Henderson and Katina Howard were really the creators of this webinar for the people in their area, their health district. They both work for the Rappahannock Area Health District, which is part of the Virginia Department of Health. And so they thought it was really of importance to have you all understand how you might start a business. And so they got together with me and with Susan and Kelsey, and we decided to have a series of 3 different webinars. So we hope that you all will be here for the one in January. Haven't quite got that agenda down yet, but if you would like to email Katina or Ben and tell them what you might find of interest, that would be very helpful. And Ben and Katina, can you maybe put your contact information in the chat too? But we really were encouraged by the turnout today. And thank you so much for the high schoolers who watched, because they're the people, they're one of the areas, one of the targets we were trying to make is high school and college students who might be thinking about starting a business. So do you all have anything to add, Ben or Katina?
I just want to say thank you again to the presenters, to UMW,
Yes.
you as well, Ms. Courtney, and to everyone who was able to come out to share, to learn, everyone who had a question. The goal behind these seminars is to provide that time, provide that opportunity to connect our community with resources that will help improve our ability to equip our individuals, young adults, students in school, students in college or going to college, with the necessary tools in order to start a small business, in order to pursue their dreams, in order to achieve economic wellness and stability in our community. So once again, we look forward to continuing with our series. Thank you again, Ms. Kelsey. Thank you again, Ms. Courtney, Ms. Katina.
Well, I don't know if you can see it, but this wasn't planned. It's just a picture in the office I'm in, but it says, a positive attitude is a powerful force. So Kelsey, you were right on target. So we hope to see you again, and thank you so much. Thank you, Ben and Katina, for thinking of this. It's a different approach for me, so I've enjoyed it a lot. And we'll get together soon about the upcoming one. All right? Thanks again, Kelsey.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all so much for coming.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
How do we turn this recorder off?
I got you covered.
Okay, good. Thank you so much. I've got to run. It was so good. I didn't want to leave. I didn't leave, so I got to. They're not going to be happy with me, but I'm gonna leave now. So good to